This video takes a deeper look at the astral body. The word astral body I am using to describe a level of manifest expression of self, which is non-physical and not bound by space or time. I think of it as the densest level of the four subtle bodies. We have four dense bodies: physical, etheric, mental, and emotional. And then we have four subtle bodies: astral, causal, and then the two layers of self, which are completely unmanifest. The two layers of divine being, or we could say states or modes of divine being silently folded in on its own nature. That's the deepest level. And then being unmanifest, but yet awake within its own nature, ready to move into the field of manifestation. As being moves across that gap between unmanifest and manifest, it first structures as the finest manifest level of the physiology, the causal body. We have to understand the causal body in order to understand the astral body. The causal body appears very similar to the source, quality-less source of creation. So the causal body has an appearance like an ocean, like a great infinite ocean, unbound by space-time. That means everyone's causal body extends to the length and breadth of the entire universe. It's as big as the universe. It's as old as the universe. It extends through the past. It extends through the future. It's a great ocean of pure perception and experience and feeling. The causal field is identified by its nature to produce resonant regions, to portion off into regions which resonate with the life force of pure unmanifest being. So pure unmanifest being starts to come into the manifest field, and it's like the vibration which goes into an instrument. And the instrument is a resonating space. And because the resonating space is there, music comes out. If you have just a vibration or you have just a resonating space, you don't have music. You have to put them together. So being provides the resonation. The causal body provides the space. And the outcome is this orchestration of intelligence. There's a tide in the causal body, which ranges between wholeness and parts. So the whole causal body, like a great big ocean, has regions. And there's a tide that runs between the wholeness and the regions. Every time the tide flows from the wholeness to the regions, there's an opportunity to reset the shapes of those regions and thereby reset the way in which intelligence resonates. I've covered this in more detail on previous videos on the causal body. You can check those out. But we want to look at the astral body now. Think of these resonating regions in the causal body like different notes produced by instruments in the orchestra. The music isn't based on any single note. The music is based on the relationship between the notes, how the resonations build upon each other to produce chords and chord progressions and textures and flavors of relationship. It is the relationships between the resonating regions, which are in fact the fundamental threads of the astral body. So the astral body appears like a fabric. It's like a fabric made of threads, and the threads are born of the relationship between the resonating regions of the causal body. At the very deepest level, the astral, I think I've covered this in another video, but the astral body is more like a fine fabric. And at the grosser level, we can think of it as being more like a crude fabric. However, this realization that I recently had, which I'm very excited to share with you, is that the astral body, the threads of the astral body are not straight. Like what in nature is straight, right? What natural form ever? Even if you have water in a cup, if you have water in a cup, right? And you let the water settle for a little bit, it looks like that line of water is pretty straight. But really, that line of water is conforming to the curvature of the Earth's gravitational field, right? So it may appear flat, like a flat line in the cup, because the cup is only a small portion, but the reality is there is actually a curve in there. So it is with the astral body. We can think of the astral body like a fabric that has ripples in it. And the ripples bend in this direction, and the ripples bend in that direction. Ripples bend in both directions. It's like a rippling fabric, a flag in the wind. Because there is a range of density, there's a spectrum of density even within the astral field. This means that when the fabric bends, a gradient is created. Think of a light moving through a prism. The light comes in this way. What happens is the prism causes the light to refract and to break apart into its constituents so that it rises to the surface as the diversity of creation. But when the fabric is rippling the other direction, this causes a looping of consciousness back to source, because all the intelligence and all the energy and the resource which gives rise to this manifest creation originates with divine being, the one source of creation. So if it comes up and it hits the fabric, it's bent this way, what happens is it curves back on its own nature. This allows for an inward stroke of awareness. This allows awareness to fold in on its own nature and to examine the rich and potent potential of the inner reality of consciousness. Whereas when the fabric is bent the other way, it allows that potent potential to move out to the surface. Depending on the angle of the bend will influence where awareness falls, where awareness lands. At this moment, as we are considering intellectually the nature of the astral body, awareness is sitting, the lens is bent in such a way as to allow the focus to go into the intellectual or mental level of self. But from that level, from the mental level of understanding and consideration, let us take a dive. Let us refocus the astral body. Let us refocus the lens so that awareness goes directly into the astral field, into that level of the physiology which connects with our bodies, our subtle bodies, with the rest of creation through the web of life. Shifting the focus. We gently shift the focus so that the astral lens is able to accommodate awareness settling in or locating the astral body itself. This is for the purpose of not just understanding the astral body, but directly experiencing the astral body. Feeling the astral body, like all the other parts of self, has the potential to process sensory experience. Only at the astral level, the sensory experience is processed as subtle sensory experience. So this is actually healing at this part of the video, we're in a place of healing where an awakening for finer perception to perceive the astral field and the web of life. The threads of consciousness are very bright. They're scintillating. They're constantly in motion. They're alive with consciousness. And the astral body and the astral field are comprised both of threads of consciousness as well as nodes, because the threads cross over each other or they interlace with each other. And where they interlace, there's always a node. And the nodes are points of wholeness. That means that complementary pairs of laws of nature reside in the nodes. And the complementary pairs interact in such a way as to provide a potent combination for the manifestation of the physical material realm and the whole field of existence. A download is being received now. I'm seeing it processed mostly in the heart area of the physiology. Also, it's being processed in the abdomen. There's like a secondary processing taking place in the head and in the abdomen, but most of this download and most of this information is coming to the heart. The nature of the heart, if you check out my video on the Mahamarmas, is to integrate the information that we receive from the immediate environment through the senses of perception in the head area, and the information we receive through the gut, which is the more universal information, which is understood from multiple points of perspective, because the nature of the gut is to be the home of the microbiome, where multiple living forms reside, and each one of them experiences reality from its point of perspective. So the heart integrates these 2 points of perspective. And the heart is able to pick up the overarching feeling within the web of life, within the astral field. I'm using the word web of life and astral field interchangeably for those of you who care to know that. This point of perspective, the lens, bent to focus on its own self, on its own form, awakens the capacity to control the bend in the lens. This is very important. This lens sits outside the boundaries and limitations of space and time, and the ability to access the potential of this area of consciousness provides autonomy over space and time. You deserve that. We all need to have autonomy over space and time so that life can be lived in grace, so that the source of creation, which provides the potential through which the whole manifest field is created, that source integrates at every single level of manifestation, so that even at the superficial level of creation, source, divine being, home of all the laws of nature, infinite potential, finds expression. It finds home even in the relative field of creation, because it really is that. It really is everything. And so important that we don't deny the physical aspects of ourselves and of our world in our pursuit for higher consciousness. ultimately, integrated higher consciousness means all the way through the physical material level. So thank you for joining me. I hope you got a lot out of this video. If you like it, let me know. Or if you have any comments, I always love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye.